The rain had been falling for hours when Daniel Whitaker finally tied his apron and stepped onto the floor of Rosie's diner. It was a Tuesday night, slow and grey, the kind of night where time moved like cold syrup. Daniel moved between tables with practiced ease, refilling coffee cups, taking orders with a quiet smile, and making sure each customer felt welcome, even if they barely noticed him. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please stay with us and watch this story till the end. If there is any mistake or shortcoming in our story, please kindly forgive us and support us with your love, patience, and encouragement. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. And tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from. Your support means everything to us. That was his life now. Invisible, dependable, and broke. He had been working at Rosie's for 3 years, picking up double shifts whenever he could. Because back home, his 11-year-old daughter Emma was waiting, and Emma needed new shoes, and her school trip was next month. And the landlord had already sent 2 reminders about the overdue rent. Daniel never complained. He had learned a long time ago that complaining changed nothing. What changed things was showing up again and again, no matter how tired your bones felt or how heavy your heart had become. So he showed up. Every single night he showed up. The bell above the door chimed at 9:15, and a man in a charcoal coat stepped inside, shaking rain from his umbrella. He was tall and well-dressed, somewhere in his late 30s, with sharp eyes that moved around the room quickly before settling into a corner booth. Daniel walked over with a menu and a glass of water, the same way he did for every customer. He set the water down, placed the menu on the table, and said what he always said. "Good evening, sir. Take your time." The man in the charcoal coat looked up. Something shifted in his expression. He stared at Daniel, the way people sometimes stare when they are trying to place a song they half remember from years ago. Daniel assumed it was nothing. Customers sometimes looked at him strangely when they were distracted or tired. He turned to walk away, but the man spoke. "Excuse me," the man said. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, something raw. "Were you ever in Millfield?" "Around 20 years ago." Daniel stopped. He turned back slowly. "I grew up in Millfield," he said. The man leaned forward. "There was an accident on Route 9. A car flipped into a ditch during a storm. A teenage boy was trapped inside." Daniel felt something stir deep in his chest, something he had buried so far down that he had almost forgotten it was there. He nodded carefully. "I remember that," he said. "I was driving home from my mother's place. I saw the car go off the road." "You stopped," the man said. "You pulled me out of that car. The engine was smoking and you stayed. You held my head above water until the ambulance came. I was conscious just long enough to see your face before I passed out." The diner felt suddenly very quiet. Daniel stood very still. He remembered that night clearly now that it had been spoken aloud. He had been 22, driving an old pickup through a rainstorm, when he saw headlights disappear off the shoulder. He had not even thought about stopping. He simply stopped. He waded into the ditch, broke the window with a rock he found in the mud, and pulled the boy out. He had sat in the cold, rain holding the teenager's head and talking to him, softly until the ambulance arrived. Then he had given his name to a paramedic, gone home soaking wet, and never heard anything more about it. He had not thought about it as heroism. He had thought about it as something any human being would do. "That was me," Daniel said quietly. The man stood up and extended his hand. "My name is Alexander Kingsley," he said. Daniel shook it, and only later that evening would he search the name and understand that he had shaken hands with one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. But that was later. Right now, Alexander Kingsley was just a man with wet shoes and grateful eyes. Alexander did not make a scene. He was not that kind of person. He sat back down and asked Daniel to sit across from him, and Daniel did, because something about the moment made it impossible to do otherwise. They talked for nearly an hour. Alexander asked about Daniel's life, and Daniel told him honestly, and the single parenthood, the double shifts, the daughter who wanted to be a marine biologist, the way every month felt like a calculation he was always just barely winning. Alexander listened to all of it without interrupting. Before he left, Alexander wrote something on a business card and slid it across the table. "Call this number tomorrow morning," he said. "Tell them I sent you. I have been looking for someone with integrity for a long time. I think I just found him." Daniel called the next morning, hands shaking slightly. Within 2 weeks, he had been offered a position managing community outreach at Alexander's Foundation, a role that came with a real salary, benefits, and the kind of stability he had stopped letting himself dream about. He told Emma that night over dinner, and she climbed across the table and hugged him so hard his chair nearly tipped backward. He laughed the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deeper than happiness. On his first day at the foundation, there was a card on his desk. It read simply, "You did not save my life once. You saved it twice. The first time in a ditch on Route 9, the second time by reminding me that goodness still exists in the world. Thank you, Daniel." He folded the card and kept it in his wallet. Not because he needed to remember that kindness mattered. He had always known that. He kept it because on the hardest nights, when the world felt indifferent and the work felt invisible, he wanted to remember that nothing is ever truly lost. Not a single act of kindness, not one. Every good thing you put into the world is a seed. And sometimes, 20 years later, it finds its way back to you, carrying everything you need. If this story moved your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world what it means to be human. Thank you for watching and for believing that kindness always finds its way home.